Hi everyone. So we are going to begin with our next lecture. Okay, and the next lecture is going to be a conclusive one where we are going to tie in the threads of trying the threads of our argument on the Beatles' music promoting peace, okay, um, and being anti-violence, okay, and kind of bringing that to contemporary concerns of anti-war movements. All right, um, okay, as seen through the making of musicals such as Across the Universe. Okay, so we are going to look at that as well. And just talk about how the Beatles songs have transcended their own original historical movement to become part of a broader, evolving artistic language. Okay, so that is what we are going to do in today's video, and I will, I will, I will share my screen. Right. So, right. So Beatles being the voices of change. Okay. So we are just going to focus on what we have already covered with regards to John Lennon's individual songs and Paul McCartney's individual songs, but we are just going to connect that to the larger movement that the Beatles music traced. Okay. So from during the early years of the Beatles, Lennon and McCartney's songwriting partnership was primarily concerned with crafting innovative and commercially successful music. Okay. However, as the 1960s progressed, their work began to reflect a growing awareness of global issues. Okay. Songs such as All You Need Is Love, okay, which we kind of highlighted in our previous lecture, introduced themes of unity and universal compassion, which would later underpin more explicitly political statements. The countercultural climate encouraged artists to engage with social issues, and Lenin, in particular, became increasingly outspoken about war and injustice. Okay. That is important to highlight. So John Lennon as being as building a language of peace through music. Okay. So Lennon's approach to peace activism was deeply personal, theatrical almost sometimes, and often provocative. Okay. Which is why he garnered that many enemies actually. Leading to his tragic assassination in 1980. So, alongside Yoko Ono, he developed a form of performance activism that sought to use media attention as a platform for anti war messages. Their bed-ins for peace in 1969 transformed the private space of a honeymoon into a global stage for protest. Okay, journalists were invited to witness the couple speaking about peace, demonstrating that activism could take unconventional forms. Okay, so yeah, it took a lot of unconventional forms. Okay, we don't need to go into all of it, but there were certain photo shoots that they did, which ended up, which resulted in the other Beatles members being called up by journalists and being questioned about, do you know why they're making these photo shoots, and then they had to kind of answer for Lennon and Yoko Ono making these provocative photo shoots, but technically, like, it was all directed towards a general sense of activism. Okay, um, yeah, largely it was directed towards a general sense of activism, which necessarily can sometimes take up unconventional forms. You can't just have, you can't just promote the spirit of activism by staying within the limits of, convention. So, that was necessary to do. Lennon's music during this period became increasingly direct. Okay, songs such as Give Peace a Chance and Imagine. Okay, one of my favorites, articulated a vision of world free from violence, borders, and divisions. Okay, these works were not tied to a single conflict but expressed a broader philosophy of nonviolence that resonated with multiple movements. Okay, so that is important to highlight. Obviously, like, I will just mention it later on in the lecture. Okay, but particularly their music has been used by artists later as well, in order to kind of build that spirit of non-violence and to promote peace. So so we will also talk about this book which kind of came out um, as a kind of supporting artifact to an Academy Award winning animation. Okay, so we'll just talk about it, and very, like, very, very timely, given the fact that we are having wars in the Middle East right now. Okay, so important to highlight it. um, the relevance of their music to contemporary peace movements. Okay, so that is important to highlight. Lenin's music during this particular period. Okay. Okay, so Lennon's music during this particular period became increasingly direct. Okay, songs such as Give Peace a Chance and Imagine articulated a vision of a world free from violence, borders, and divisions. These works were not only tied to a single conflict but expressed a broader philosophy of nonviolence that resonated with multiple movements. Okay, so and alongside it, you also had Lennon and McCartney both responding to the Troubles. Okay, so the eruption of violence in Northern Ireland at the end of the 1960s presented a different kind of challenge. Okay, unlike the Vietnam War, which was geographically distant for British audiences, the conflict in Ireland was immediate and deeply entangled with British politics and identity. Okay, so events such as Bloody Sunday, in which British soldiers shot unarmed civil rights protesters in Derry, shocked the world and intensified calls for justice in Ireland. All right, and both Lennon and McCartney responded quickly to that political, disaster, using their music to address the crisis. Okay, so Lennon brought out Sunday Bloody Sunday, and Paul McCartney brought out Give Ireland Back to the Irish. Their songs were notable not only for their content but also for their willingness to confront controversial issues that many public figures avoided at that time. Okay, so right, so let's look at Sunday Bloody Sunday, Anger and Outrage, and how it gave rise to anger and outrage first, and then we will look at Give Ireland Back to the Irish. So, Lennon's Sunday Bloody Sunday, released in 1972 in the album Sometime in New York City, is one of his most overtly political songs. Unlike his earlier calls for universal peace, the track is rooted in a specific event and expresses raw anger at what he perceived as injustice. The lyrics directly reference the killings in Derry and condemn British actions in Northern Ireland. Lines such as "You Anglo pigs and Scotties" reveal the intensity of Lennon's emotions and his willingness to use confrontational language in order to kind of critique, political violence. Okay, and I think that is necessary. Um, it marked a departure from the more idealistic tone of songs present in, songs like Imagine. Lennon was not simply envisioning peace in Sunday Bloody Sunday. He was reacting to violence with an indignation and urgency that was necessary at that time. The song also highlights a tension within peace activism, the challenge of expressing outrage without perpetuating further division. Critics argued that Lennon's language risked inflaming tensions, while supporters saw it as a necessary expression of solidarity with the victims. Okay, so in that particular sense, Sunday Bloody Sunday illustrated the complexities of artistic responses to political violence. All right, and particularly Lenin, in that way, he risked himself, he risked his life, which eventually kind of led to his tragic assassination. Okay, because that is what you necessarily do if you kind of respond to political violence with critique and a certain acerbity, then not everyone is able to understand it. Okay, although his assassinator particularly had had looked at his religious views as the ground for assassination. Okay, so the song was both a protest against injustice and a reflection on the emotional turmoil that such events can provoke. Okay. All right. So now let us look at Give Ireland Back to the Irish, which was created by McCartney and his band Wings, okay, and was released in 1972. All right. The song was written in response to the Bloody Sunday incident and called for the end of British rule in Northern Ireland. Its message was clear and unambiguous. Okay. But the language, to a certain extent, restrained, okay, compared to Lennon's "You Anglo Pigs and Scotties." Okay, so the language was a little restrained. McCartney emphasized principles of self-determination and justice, framing the issue in terms of rights rather than anger. Okay, so that was also very significant. Okay, framing it as giving back the Irish people their right to self determine themselves, okay, rather than just launching a vitriolic attack against the British, which is what Lennon did in his music. The approach reflects a more diplomatic stance, okay, a more diplomatic critique, if you like, because it was looking for building a constructive dialogue, or at least offering the grounds for a constructive dialogue rather than openly kind of um, slapping confrontation on the walls of British judiciary system, particularly because one of the things that I think could have led to a more diplomatic stance is because geographically he was closer to Ireland, okay, and geographically he was emplaced in Britain, and so to kind of and in a more capable position of building a dialogue. Okay, he was one of the most important cultural figures of that particular time, and being emplaced in Britain, the more reasonable way of a reasonable way of drawing attention to that particular violence was through dialogue. All right, it was through dialogue and not just through uh, openly slamming what the British had perpetrated. Although the song is doing that entirely through as a in and through its music, but it is also kind of opting for a dialogue um, with the British governing authority. So that is very significant to highlight. I think the song was seen as controversial, okay, because it kind of wanted to establish a dialogue. But if you look at it in retrospect of the position in which he was writing the music, okay, in the position in which he was producing the song, his own uh, cultural his own cultural position as as a very well known, one of the most well known performers in the world. It was important to build a dialogue with the British governing authority. Despite the fact that it took a diplomatic stance, it was banned from the BBC and other broadcasters, okay, demonstrating the sensitivity of the issue. So, Lennon with his vitriolic lyrics and Paul McCartney with his um, more diplomatic approach. Both of them face the same kind of same kind of consequence, with the BBC banning their songs, demonstrating the particular sensitivity of the issue and the risks that were involved in speaking out. Okay, the ban itself became a form of negative publicity, drawing attention to their songs' messages, and sparking debate about censorship and freedom of expression. McCartney's willingness to accept these consequences underscores his commitment to using his platform for political purposes. Okay, so that is important to highlight. Okay, so um, and so how did they build a broader commitment to peace? Okay, so you find that Lennon with "Give Peace a Chance," okay, um, became a more prominent voice for peace advocacy. Okay. Okay, so the song became the anthem for anti-war protests around the world, particularly in opposition to the Vietnam War. All right. Imagine was also seen as a vision, as offering a vision of global harmony. All right. So those are the things that Lennon's songs were doing more explicitly. While for Paul McCartney's music, you find that his songs, such as "Let It Be," was actually appropriated into cultural forms that spoke for activism, that spoke for resilience. Okay, particularly in his time as well as later. Okay, so for example, you have the movie Across the Universe, kind of using Paul McCartney's "Let It Be" as a um, as a musical instrument to you know to protest against the violence, the violence in Africa, and also caused due to civil war. Okay, so to protest against that, and also to um, promote a sense of resilience. Okay, promote a sense of resilience. So that is very significant to highlight. Okay, because it emphasized a theme of compassion and human connection. Okay, and that travels across generations, across timelines. All right, so the role of celebrity and media. One of the most significant aspects of Lennon and McCartney's peace advocacy is their use of celebrity as a platform for political engagement. As former members of the Beatles, they commanded global attention, allowing their messages to reach vast audiences. All right, so that continued throughout. Okay. Um, so Paul McCartney has used his music in support of ending the use of landmines. All right, so that is very important, one of the important contributions, um, and several other such instances, okay, of using music um, as a voice of protest, as a means of protest, if you like. Okay, and then right, and so you also have we have covered it. Okay, we've looked at the Troubles and their contribution to protesting the 1972 brutal murders by the British government of Irish people. Then we have also looked at Vietnam War, okay, and the role of Give Peace a Chance in kind of becoming an anthem for the anti-Vietnam War movement. Um, right. So um So now we will look at the enduring legacy of the Beatles music, of the music of the Beatles. Okay, so very significant. So Paul McCartney's songs such as "Let It Be" and "Hey Jude" and John Lennon's "All You Need Is Love," all of them convey themes of hope. Okay, and themes of harmony amidst struggles and you know um, political turmoil. So these themes are not tied to a specific moment in history, making them ideal for reinterpretation. Okay, such an adaptability has enabled artists, directors, and playwrights to construct entirely new narratives around these songs. Okay, so like I gave the example of Across the Universe. Um, um, One second. So, Across the Universe is a 2007 musical, okay, which was directed by Julie Taymor, okay, and centered on the Beatles' discography, okay, and used it to kind of narrate the incidents that had taken place during their timeline, okay. So it's not deviating from that particular timeline, but it is crafting a very original kind of story. By using those songs. All right. So, very significant to take it into account. Um, right. I wanted to say one other thing. Mm. So yes, one thing which I kind of need to mention as an errata, and that is errata. Um, and that is the the Let It Be song, which is used in Across the Universe. It's not it the grounds of its grounds of promoting resilience is in the context of the 1967 Detroit riot. Okay, it is not African riot. Okay, it's not an riot in Africa caused by civil war. It is actually used in the context of the 1967 Detroit riot, known as the 12th Street Riot, and the Detroit Uprising, which was one of the bloodiest of the urban riots in the United States during the long hot summer of 1967. Okay, so it's important to take that to kind of underline it. Okay, yeah. So the song kind of helps elevate the memory of the trauma of that particular incident. Right. So important to highlight all of it. Across the Universe demonstrates that Beatles songs are not just time specific artifacts, okay, but they are living works that are capable of, that are capable of remolding themselves to different historical moments, okay, and are open to constant reinterpretation, okay. By placing them in a new medium, the film introduces the music to new audiences. Okay, younger audiences are introduced to the music of the Beatles, and fresh perspectives are given to existing fans. Okay, such as me. Um, then yeah, so then you also have like cultural memory and generational transmission. So musicals like Across the Universe play a crucial role in preserving the Beatles' legacy by introducing their music to new generations. For younger audiences who did not experience the 1960s, these adaptations provide an entry point into the cultural and historical context of the band. Themes of war, identity, and social change remain relevant, allowing Beatles music to maintain its emotional and political significance. Okay, so very significant to highlight it. You also have, um, you also have Danny Boyle's Yesterday, okay, which imagines an alternative reality where, there's no Beatles music, okay, and then kind of uses that as a critique of the kind of pop music that is produced in our time. All right. So that's again another, another influence that the Beatles music has had on popular culture. Um, okay, and critiquing what is authentic art and what is inauthentic art and all of that. So the music particularly bridges the gap between what is historically specific, what is believed to be historically specific, and what is universal meaning. Okay, so what is universally appealing, what is universally meaningful. Okay, that is what I wanted to say. So it's important to take all of it into account. It is not, it's not entirely complete. Our lecture is not entirely complete if we do not talk about, you know, the Bangladesh concert, you know, um, done by George Harrison. So I'll just go over it once. Okay, so the concert as Bangladesh stands as one of the most historically significant moments in the intersection of music, politics, and humanitarian action. Okay, organized in 1971 by George Harrison and the Indian musician Ravi Shankar, the concert was not merely a musical event, it was a groundbreaking act of global awareness and activism. Okay, it brought together some of the most prominent musicians of the era to respond to a humanitarian crisis unfolding in Bangladesh, specifically during the Bangladesh Liberation War. Okay, so the historical context is that the region, then known as East Pakistan, was engulfed in a violent conflict following the political tensions between East and West Pakistan, and the Pakistani military launched a brutal crackdown on civilians. Okay, um, leading to widespread authorities and starvation and refugee crisis. Okay, so millions of refugees fled to neighboring India. Despite the scale of the crisis, global awareness remained limited. All right. And particularly, so the concert took place at Madison Square Garden in New York City on August 1st, 1971, and it featured leading artists such as Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton, Ringo Starr from the Beatles, and Ravi Shankar. So very very significant to take it into account, and largely, like, if you look at what the Beatles did in terms of promoting political dissent and kind of protesting political violence. Okay, then in light of that, the Beatles, Bob Dylan as well, in light of it, a lot of what our contemporary musicians are doing seems very seems very inadequate in many ways. Okay, because we have a lot more resources now. Okay, a lot more platforms to talk about global injustice. Okay, a lot more outlets to to build a discussion on the injustices of war, displacement, forced migration, all of it. And yet you find that artists kind of do not want to risk political alienation. Okay, so that is a very concerning thing, if you like. Okay, and particularly now we have genocides being streamed in our phones. Okay, it's you wake up, you have your breakfast while looking at um, genocidal events in places such as Palestine. So that is a concerning factor. How our conscience as a civilization uh, has somehow become, you know, has somehow kind of eroded almost, okay, through the onslaught of mind-numbing media, okay, which is very tragic, okay, and it has affected all of us as a civilization, and we ought to do something about it, which is why basically I'm making this course on the music of the Beatles, in order to kind of recover some of that, revolutionary spirit that is associated with their music. Okay, so I think we can conclude. Okay, and thank you all so much for listening, and see you next time.